House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Gina and Liz are joining me as they do each and every Tuesday, and we are talking about something, ladies. Kind of, the holidays are a time of joy, a time of togetherness, and everything. Unfortunately, this year it's also a time of decision making and of contemplating big sequence of events that have to happen because according to you ladies, the number of inquiries that you are both getting at RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam about probate has gone way up. So we're doing this episode now as a FAQ, the frequently asked questions, so that if you have questions out there about probate and estate planning and stuff like that, we're here to help you. So Liz, what is the context of what people are asking about probate?
Well, we have people who come to us and they want to liquidate some properties. So the first thing Gina and I would ask is, okay, how is the property held? Whose name is on the title? And sometimes we get, oh, my dad owned it. And then I said, okay, did you guys have a trust, or did you guys, was the property deeded to you or your siblings? And sometimes they would say, no, it wasn't deeded, but hey, it's ours. We're the heirs. And we have to tell them, I'm sorry, you have to go to probate, which means you have to go to an attorney. Mm-hmm. And then they would have to take the probate case to court and get the judge's approval to deed the properties to the siblings or one sibling.
Have you guys ever been yelled at? Let me ask you, because they'll say, but I'm the daughter. Yes, but I'm the godson. Of course it comes to me. That's my grandpa's place.
And so I have one of those cases where I just got an email today where 3 girls received they're saying, well, my mom passed away and the property belongs to us now. And I'm saying, yes, but you still have to go through a probate process. So Gina and I have always wanted to remind people the deed goes to you if it was deeded through probate or it was through a trust. You always have to check the title because there's always a number of assumptions being made that it's automatic. It is not. I think the only time it's automatic is if you're husband and wife and there's a community property where the wife would have to show proof and show the death certificate to prove that husband has passed. But again, it just depends on how that deed is read. We've had escrow bring up, if it says joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, then for sure it goes to the spouse. So sometimes there's different interpretations that Gina and I have experienced. But again, bottom line, if it wasn't passed on, you have to go to probate. So you'd have to hire an attorney and go through that process. And if the objective of the family is to sell it and not to keep it, then their attorney would put together paperwork to state that that property can be sold. But then again, define who will the proceeds go to. Would it go to one person or the whole? If you have 10 in the family, then again, the proceeds will have to go to the 10 siblings.
Because even on Guam, we have this implied trust and the guy respeto, the love we have for each other and the family, pecking order and the structure. That doesn't fly in court. I mean, in court, that you have to have that legally on paper. So, Gina, over to you. And most Guamanians, whenever they hear probate, they think about and they just assume because someone has passed on, and it's property that will now be bequeathed to somebody because of a death in the family. What about other situations, like maybe somebody, as a probate through means of divorce, or say somebody goes to jail, or someone's in the witness protection program or something like that? Like, what are other use cases where property would need to go to probate?
Well, the only time you go through probate is if somebody has passed.
That's the only time.
In a divorce, in a divorce situation, husband and wife negotiate, and through the divorce settlement, with the approval of the judge and the divorce decree, the property gets passed on, and that in itself has, I've come across some issues there where the property was passed on and the person that got the property actually passed away. And what happens at that point? So that's a completely different segment.
Oh my gosh.
It's complicated, but just talking about probate, what I find to be the biggest challenge in probates is when the property is decreed to several people. You've got 6, 7, 10 heirs. And you know, I've worked with so many families where it took years and years to have that property passed on, to have the probate completed, and the judge finally signed the final order, you know, decreeing the property to maybe, let's say, 5 individuals. And then after that, I've seen in cases, and this has been coming up recently for us, and this is where we really, you know, it's a shame that this is the process. What, for instance, happens when after you get the decree and now the property has been given to the heirs, the 6 heirs or the 5 heirs or the 3 heirs, somebody passes away, one of them passes away. Well, what happens? Well, you go back into probate because you own it jointly.
Compounding, you've got probate on top of probate.
Yeah, every time that occurs, you go to probate because you own it in undivided interest. The 6 people own it. So when one of the 6 or one of the 5 or one of the 3 or one of the 10 passes, you go back into probate and you need to have the court pass on the title again to the person's heirs, that to that, you know, whoever passed away. Now the court has to pass the title, the share of that person's share, to their heirs. And that's what I find is so, you know, it's hard to deal with when you have family members coming in and saying, but we already did probate and the court gave it to 6 of us. Well, 2 of you have passed. You got to deal with it again.
Okay. And the one thing we always want to remind people, like on the show, because probate comes up so often. And again, that's why we're doing this episode. But in my own experience, when my dad passed, my mom and I had to go to probate. My sister and my brother-in-law are off island, but we had to go to probate. It was very frictionless. You know, none of my dad was the oldest of 10, you know, so my aunties and my uncles, everybody got along. They weren't squabbling over the process, but it still took us no less than 4 months. And it still cost us several $1,000s just for attorney's fees to go through the thing. And the only reason it took so long is it's all dependent on when the judge can free up their calendar to hear the probate thing. And we were only in court literally for like 3 minutes. And they were like, okay, everything looks good. Okay, you're good to go. So there's
Jace, 4 months is unheard of.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I tell people. So there's, in addition to the emotional component, there's financial and there's time. And again, my thing was like as easy as it could be. I can only imagine when, you know, you've got siblings that are arguing over this stuff.
No, but look at that situation that Gina just mentioned, that there are 5 or 6 siblings that are 1/5 interest, for example, and the part that one dies, if that individual had 10 kids, you've added the 10 to that 1/5 interest. So then it complicates it. I have one case where there are like 5 or 6 clans, and one clan, there's 18 interest in one clan, and then the other clans, we don't know how many. So you could have over 100 people who have interest in the property. And all you need is one to disagree, and it messes the whole thing up.
Shout out to our friends in the Navy, because they say this is literally like, you know, taking like a teaspoon of oil and putting it into a ship's water supply.
Right. Yeah, so we're always, I mean, I want to mention we're not attorneys. We send you to the attorney, but we're just expressing our experience from what we've seen. I just even had one other case where an individual was married, and then in the divorce decree, I guess the property was deeded to him, and then they remarried. And so the recent ruling is they remarried, of course, but the siblings have to take it to probate because she no longer has interest. So we rely on the attorney's decision to guide us through this process, because every probate case is different. There's always different nuances that affect the probate. So we go to the attorneys, we send them to the attorneys, and we say, get the opinion from the attorney on how to proceed with this particular situation.
And again, because Guam is based on family and you know, respect. I mean, it's who we are, right? As Guamanians, everybody assumes that it's going to go to the oldest surviving member of the family, or the boy, or, you know, something like that. But I mean, again, if it's not on legal paper and everything, you got to do this.
And Jace, can I point out, I had a family who did their probate, and one of the members was actually living in the US. So the children opened his probate in the US. They opened the probate, they closed the probate, and they assumed that because they opened the probate and closed it in the United States, that everything was done. It doesn't apply to Guam properties. Please consult your attorneys to get confirmation. It does not apply to your properties that are on Guam. You must open probate here on island in order to address
That's a good
Guam
point.
properties.
I didn't even think about that. Okay, before I let you go, ladies, I want to ask you again. You guys have so much experience between the two of you. You guys know this market like none other. And we're not going to mention any names here because, you know, we shouldn't and we won't because we're responsible professionals. But I need from each of you, what is your craziest probate story about how property had to go to probate and, you know, step brother and divorce, or, you know, so and so passed, or so and so, like whatever. Yeah, I need each of your craziest probate story.
Oh, you know, I don't know if I want to share mine because these are stories about, you know, every probate case is about families out there, right? And
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's not so much crazy, but it's painful for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah,
which drives the point home and everything like that. Like, again,
yeah, and I think in probate sometimes when there's different family members, the emotions run the gamut, and so as a result, we tried, because Gina and I try to help. Our objective is to help pull everything together to accomplish the goal. And if the goal is to sell the property, then, you know, I remember my great-grandfather, I served as an administrator, and there were like 10 different clans. And some of them wanted to keep the property. And I said, it really doesn't serve the greater good of the family. So each clan, I said, have one rep. I just want to deal with one rep. And then we went through the process. The property was sold and everybody was happy in the end. But again, our objective is to bring everyone together to come to a positive resolution to solve the probate.
Okay, boys and girls, everybody watching, that was Probate 101 from Miss Gina and Miss Liz. And if you have any questions about probate, and certainly you do, hopefully we covered the lion's share of the concerns that you guys have about evidently the rising number of probate inquiries. We covered most of it. If you have anything else, you can contact Liz and Gina at RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam, and they will be happy to answer your questions.
We'll be happy to refer you to a good attorney.
Good attorney, exactly. You got it.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.